I'm here with my guest today, Coach Casey Leister of the Navy baseball program, the Midshipmen. Coach Leister, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Just enjoying the day. Excited to talk some baseball, talk some sports.
You're living down in Florida right now, or staying down in Florida?
Yeah, this is the longest I've been, back in Florida since I graduated. So it's been nice to see family, kind of take some time to breathe and think about some things and just keep grinding.
You're down in Tampa area?
Yeah, I'm right outside of Bradenton, like the Tampa area, right around there.
Nice, nice. Well, let's start out with this then. Talk a little bit about your journey through playing and then leading into coaching baseball for us.
Yeah, so growing up in Florida, Florida was very big time baseball. You used to spend every day down at East Bay Little League. From there, just kind of grew, went into high school, played through high school, as well as played other sports. I really think I'm a big fan of multiple sports. So I think playing soccer, playing football, playing baseball, and at the high school level, at the varsity level, was kind of essential for me to develop as an athlete.
Sure.
From there, when I graduated, I went to Florida State to start off. I ended up leaving there, going to Montgomery College, which is when I first moved to Maryland. Kind of was really my first time living outside of the state of Florida. I kind of wanted to reset and start off, and went up there and played 2 years there. I actually played at the Rockville campus as well as the Germantown campus. So I switched programs, ended up leaving there and going to Shepherd, and that's where I graduated out in West Virginia. From there, I didn't really jump directly into coaching. I kind of got my start in the working field, and kind of realized that, coaching was something I really wanted to do. So I, took a high school position and started off as a JV coach at a Good Counsel, and kind of realized this was something I really wanted to invest my time and my effort and my energy into, and ended up, starting doing that basically full time, where, I left any course of regular full-time work, you know, dove into that and started off as a substitute teacher on the side just to help pay the bills and, kind of grind my way through the coaching ranks.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I think a lot of coaches, unless they get that early on break, they have to do something on the side. It's kind of like being a minor league baseball player. You got to do something on the side to bring in some cash and keep you moving forward. How'd you find MC? How'd you find Montgomery College?
My grandma's actually from the Montgomery County area, so she lived there and recommended, hey, come up here. You'll have a place to live. She's been kind of like a big support for me through college, through my coaching, endeavors. Like been really, really big, rock for me. So I mean, if it weren't for her, I probably would have stopped playing baseball way earlier on. Just She was just something that helped get me to where I am now, and something I'll always be eternally grateful for. So that's kind of how I got my transition up into the Maryland area.
That's cool. Interesting area. I know MC has pretty good baseball. So
yeah, a couple of Region 20 titles, World Series trips. I met some incredible baseball players while playing there. Great teammates, good coaches. Just all around, it's a small spot that turns into be a pretty good baseball environment.
Right. Okay, so you started out coaching at Good Counsel. You were doing some baseball there, and then you kind of jumped over to some youth organizations. What was that like, working with the youth organizations?
Yeah, so when I working through Good Counsel, you work with the younger kids. I was working with the older kids, and I started working some camps through. I did Little League World Series with Baseball Factory. That was awesome. I mean, that was my first taste of high-level youth baseball. Going to the Little League World Series and watching 12-year-olds compete at that high of a level and with that much passion and determination, and kind of seeing how different countries really play the game of baseball was pretty incredible. Seeing how the coaches react and seeing 20,000 fans at a 12U game
You
was
know,
a pretty cool experience.
that's wild. That's wild. We went on our way home from vacation last year. We rolled through Williamsport. I'm from Pennsylvania, but it's nowhere near where I'm from in Pennsylvania originally, and that's just such a cool experience going through there. Um, yeah, that's awesome. What did you find most gratifying about coaching the younger kids? Like any particular game stand out for you?
I wouldn't know. I don't really say any particular game stands out. It's kind of more of the small moments. Little kids, like the younger kids, really, anytime they do something new or they succeed at something they haven't succeeded in, you know, they're very much playing it for joy, and it's something that, you know, the longer they hold on to that joy and the passion they have to get better is something that really translates as they get older. So you kind of can take that away from the younger kids, where, you know, they work hard, they have fun doing it, and every little moment's kind of a victory for them, and that's pretty awesome.
A lot of those young kids, I mean, like that's the coup de grace for them. To be honest with you, last year I coached my son's minor league baseball team, and we had some kids on there because they could play at the minor league level, like the minors kids pitch at 11 years old. I don't know if some of them will even come back and play this year as 12. Well, for what it's worth, if they have something as 12-year-olds. So you see a lot of those young kids. This is their coup de grace playing baseball, and some of them are really passionate about it, and they find other things to do. So, you know, I can understand how you got gratification on that. All right, so let's go back to your high school, working with those players. When you progressed back to those high school kids, how did that experience from the younger kids sort of translate back to the kids that are a few years older now and have some playing experience?
I think just the way you teach, you know, you're working with younger kids, you're finding different ways to explain things, and you're adjusting on the fly. How you work with a 9-year-old is very different than how you would work with a 15-year-old, and that's very different to how you would work with a 20-year-old. Just finding ways to get through to different ages is it's kind of a task in itself, and being able to relay that in, kind of get success is probably one of the being.
Yeah, and you had some experience there because you said you did some substitute teaching, so you're probably able to translate some of what you were doing as far as a teacher to doing it in coaching, and then yeah, I get it. I totally get it. So what was it like working in Singapore? Were the players receptive to instruction from American coaches? How different was your approach to the game with them compared to the way you work with, like, say, American players?
Singapore was awesome. It's a great place. It's full of expats, so every team we had, whether it was a 6U team or our 18U team, you know, was built up of kids from all over the world. Um, my first experience with it was we took a 6-week trip on the west coast of the U.S. with players from Australia, Singapore, all over the world, from different backgrounds, and everybody kind of came together to play a game that we all know and love. And each one's very different. Like the Australian, couple of Australian kids I had were very aggressive, very play hard, play as hard as you can, give nothing back to it. So we had a 17U kid run through a wall to catch a ball and then busted up his eyes, pouring blood, and goes up and
Sure,
to his next at bat and hits a grand slam. And it was awesome because
sure.
I've never seen anybody just run through a fence and bounce back as hard as they did. And then you have the other end of the spectrum and the Japanese players where it's very task oriented. If say your task that day is to field ground balls perfectly, you don't advance until you advance. And it's, you know, American baseball and the American way of playing is very in the middle. You know, you work on a certain specific skill, and then you kind of grow from there. And I think having all the different cultures and everybody coming together on one team was awesome. It was a really cool experience. Everybody kind of would build off of each other, and it just made for a really unique environment. And It's
That's great on
something
your
I
resume.
highly recommend for anyone.
That's great on your resume too, to be working with so many various kids from various places who they have one singular passion, and that's baseball. If you had to pick one specific moment or event that occurred while you were doing that, or while you were coaching in Singapore, um, could you hone in on one? Could you pick one specific moment that was most memorable for you?
We used to do a thing called Selfie Saturday with all the youth kids, and every Saturday everybody would take a photo together, and I thought that was pretty exciting. We also finished every practice with a joke, and there's nothing better than a 7-year-old telling a joke because 9 times out of 10 it doesn't make sense, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
all think it's hysterical.
Yeah, I get that. My son is 10, and I love when he tells us jokes. I totally relate to that. Um, you coached at Montgomery College, where you played for the Raptors. You worked with Maryland Collegiate Baseball League in the summer. So, as your first experience at the collegiate level coaching, what'd you gain from it? And do you continue to apply that today as you coach at Navy?
Yeah, I think one of the first things I really learned was just how much time goes into to being able to be a successful coach. It's not just show up and practice. You're studying different ways to get through different situations. You're learning how to develop players from, especially within the junior college level. You have 2 years to get the most out of your guys, and then you're trying to get them somewhere else. So I think being there was very different. It was a great start. I thought learning from Rasher was awesome. Seeing the coaching side of him as a peer rather than as a player was a really cool experience for me. And being able to give back to that program and even a small way was a very big part for me. And it was something that made me really want to dive further into college coaching.
Who's been most influential in your coaching career thus far?
That's a really tough question. I've had some really awesome mentors. My first job coaching was at Good Counsel, and Tim Park was awesome. I mean, he's somebody who really brought out the best in players, made them work on the mental side of things, and really develop through just not just athletically but mentally. And he had a really good background as well. Played at Montgomery College, was an All-American, and then played at William and Mary, and had a really successful career. So learning from a guy like that was pretty great to start off. And it really forced me to focus on, building myself as a coach, taking my time, never shying away from learning, listening to everybody I talked to, never wanting to be the smartest guy in the room. And I think that was a very big stepping stone for me. And I can't thank Coach Kane enough over at Navy. I mean, helping me through everything has been awesome. Listening to him talk hitting on a daily basis is something I could do forever. He's a guy that knows his stuff and wants to continue and wants to develop guys in the best way possible. And I think that's something that has been pretty incredible.
So, okay, so that's from the coaching standpoint. What's one thing you want guys to remember you for that you coached? In other words, as they reminisce about you in 10 or 15 years, Coach Leister, what do you want them to say about you with the time they spent playing for you?
Man, that's questions that you could sit and think about forever. Um, you kind of want them to think about, hey, that guy, he won a lot, but at the same time, you kind of want them to, do you want them to pull more from, they made me a better person, or do you want them to pull more from, they made me a better athlete? And I'd kind of like to think that I can bring out both, and that's kind of the way I've taken my approach to coaching is I want to do both, and that's one of the reasons why I got into coaching, because I think so much is developed through sports and the real world, and developing that and bringing the best out of those players and out of those kids is something that I love and I will always want to do.
At the end of the day, I mean, a lot of them after they're done at Navy, that's it. They're, those kids that were done at MC, that was it. So, that character piece, those life lessons you probably taught them through baseball is probably about as integral as it gets. Speaking of Navy, Navy seems to be doing pretty well in the Patriot League. Talk a little bit about what's helped to build that program.
Yeah, Coach Casey has done a really good job himself with great staff and Coach Kane and Coach Applegate, and just really helped develop the players, creating an environment that you want to be a part of. Players buy in, they create the work ethic. I think working with Naval Academy kids is one of the coolest things, because they work, they buy in, they put in the work, they know what it takes. And with the buy-in was one of the reasons why we had such a successful start this year. Those guys never thought they would lose. We were being no hit by Penn State and won in extras. It's, those guys never gave up. They found a way, and something that I think is important.
Team chemistry seems to be like, so, after being a coach for so many years myself and things like that, I mean, that sounds like you've got the right team chemistry going on there along with the character that you probably have. A lot of those guys have a commitment when they're done playing, right?
Yeah, every single one of them. So for our guys, there's no coming back next year. Our guys knew, and they actually, they kind of build off of, adversity. This year, there's nothing more adverse than losing your senior season and not having that opportunity to come back, maybe to never play baseball ever again. And I think that's something that most of the guys who do come to Navy know, that at some point it's going to end. So that was something big for us, but we do have players who continue to play after, and it's something all of our guys strive for. But at the end of the day, they have a commitment to the country, to the service, and to their school.
Right. All right. What were the emotions like in the locker room when things got shut down for the season? I don't know if you found out at the end of a game, or they pulled them in and said, hey, this is it, or if they didn't even get to do that. They just said, listen, you're done.
I think we had a pretty unique way of finding it out. We actually learned that the Patriot League was canceling the season on Monday, but it was Thursday. We were actually preparing to leave for Bucknell that weekend. So we had pulled in, Coach Casey had pulled seniors, said, hey, season's canceled as of Monday, but we can still go play Bucknell this weekend. Do you want to go play Bucknell? Every single one of them said yes. So we started a practice. We practiced for about an hour and a half. After that hour and a half, Coach Casey pulled everybody aside and said, unfortunately, we're being forced to shut down the season. We'll get more information as we know. Go pack your things. So we were prepared for it, but at the same time, there was still that feeling of, is this happening? But I think our guys handled it very well. Like I said, our guys, they're trained for this. They've trained through adverse conditions. It's a hard life, and they do a good job at it, and they held up really well.
Any tough emotions come off of those guys when they found out, hey, we're not going to play this series after all?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was heartbreak amongst the players. There was heartbreak amongst the staff. We were all kind of like, everybody knows there's a last inning. Everybody knows there's a last out. There's a last game. But when you don't know that it actually happened is the hardest part. And I think once you kind of got past that, you kind of sat there and were like, 14-1 is not a bad way to finish it.
Anyone from your program going on to play? Anybody have the opportunity to go and play at the next level?
From right now, as I know, not as of now. We do have Noah Song from last year. He's a current member of the Boston Red Sox minor league organization. Incredible athlete, incredible ability. Played for Team USA in the Olympic qualifiers last year. Just a all-around the model player you could ever ask for, both as an athlete and as a Navy midshipman. Just represents everything you want, and I think the Red Sox definitely got a good one in him.
Anybody else from the midshipmen playing at the professional level right now?
At the professional level, he's the only one currently.
Okay. How's recruiting been this year? It had to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, with the NCAA shutting everything down till at least August 1, it's just different. You're not out. You're not recruiting. You're not on the road. So a lot of it's just done digitally, staying in contact with those guys you want to recruit. And for us anyways, it's a little bit different than most schools. We usually wait. We're a little bit further in the process where we got to have test scores. We got to have GPAs. We got to, make sure you check all the boxes. And so something like this does make it a little bit more difficult, but our guys are strong and we're going to get the job done.
In the end, I mean, I think everybody's kind of in this, it should level the playing field a little bit because of this, unfortunately, this year, because everybody's in about the same spot in terms of being able to talk to their guys and get out and, try and convince them, hey, let's get you over here. We'd like to see you play for us. Do you have any special training methods or techniques you like to coach up that help your players make that big leap?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Costi is very big on just working on the basic things. If we drill the basics, hand position with fielding, making sure our mechanics are working out the way they need to. The bigger things are gonna happen. So we're constantly working on making sure the basics are there and drilling. Playing baseball the Navy way. Our biggest thing is we want to field the baseball. We want to hit the baseball. We pride ourselves on not making errors, and that's something that's going to continue, and it's something that has been a big part of our success.
So you really don't change their batting or their pitching style unless it needs an overhaul per se. You kind of let them develop on their own from that perspective.
I wouldn't say that. We definitely do some tweaking in the best position and making sure that we're able to get the job done and win baseball games.
You particularly, you have one thing that you want guys to walk away with, that you help them work with, that you hone in on because that's something you truly believe, whether it's something with the batting, something with the throwing. Is there something in particular that you have developed as your signature thing in helping your players?
I think a lot of the time I find myself when I'm with hitters is really just telling them to breathe. I think good breath really makes a big difference. When you're able to get oxygen to the brain, you're able to function at a high level, and they have the tools they need to be successful. Whether they're going to be successful is another thing, but being able to take that breath, slow things down, and get the job done is pretty important.
We can have Major League Baseball this year?
I'm hoping, but that's about all it is. It's all just a hope. I'm not sure. I don't think so.
What's your take on it? How do you feel about it? Give me your perspective as a coach.
I personally, I'm siding with the players. I think asking them to play for a prorated salary is perfect. That's how it should be done. But saying percentage of a prorated is kind of tough. I've also always been a fan of, siding with the labor. I think siding with the labor gives you a better perspective. The owners, I get it. They're not going to make as much money as they want to, and they have. But if it weren't for the players, you wouldn't have a organization. So for me, I'm fully in support of the players. I'm scared what it's going to do to baseball if we don't have a season. This was a time where baseball could have been brought to the forefront.
Yeah.
I mean, the Korean baseball has been going on for months now.
Have you watched
And
any?
I've watched a little bit.
Me too.
5 a.m. is tough. I'll watch the highlights and some recording, but waking up at 5 a.m. to watch baseball is a little tough when it's not World Baseball Classic or
Right.
the Olympics. So
Taiwan's
we'll see.
playing. Taiwan is playing baseball, and they've got fans in the stands. They've scattered them out. They've done their distancing or whatever, and they're no issues there.
Right, and I think of all the sports, I think baseball is probably the easiest to play while socially distant. All you have to worry about is a baseball, and really that's it. Unless you're on the bases, but even still, I think we could have been playing even if it was without fans.
I think for Major League Baseball right now, and this is what I've read, and I'm sure you've read the same thing, it all comes down to the fact that the owners are trying to work in, even though it's not a CBA year, they're trying to work the CBA right now so that when it does end next year, they have some groundwork laid to do whatever they want to do. And the players are like, no, we're not doing that.
Correct. They're trying. I think they're fully trying to put a chip in the armor of the Players Association. It's the strongest one for a reason, and they're not going to back down.
You like Manfred? I know a lot of people who back the players don't necessarily like Manfred, just like a lot of people who back the players in the NFL don't necessarily like Goodell. But Manfred says, if you don't get this settled, we're going to play a 48-game season. What do you think about that?
I mean, I appreciate the sentiment of forcing a season. I do. But at the same time, I think there's been some changes to try and draw in fans that probably are never going to be drawn in.
Right.
Changing the ways that, is it for the better? Maybe, but maybe not. You're trying to pull in people that may or may not ever really care that, the rules have changed. So
it saddens me
he's
because
all right.
Right out of the gates, I thought they'd be the first back. I had heard for weeks that they were going to put a product on the field by around the 4th of July. And I thought, what a great way to celebrate the 4th of July, to get us out of the doldrums of being quarantined and all that stuff forever. And it's sad that those two groups of people don't get it in terms of, finding a medium point and putting the product back out there. I'm also pretty sad. I live out in the Frederick, Maryland area. I'm pretty sad to find out they're going to get rid of the Frederick Keys, which is a very productive minor league team. They're on the chopping block with 42 teams that they want to get rid of in Major League Baseball. And from my perspective, and I'll ask you for yours in a second, I think minor league baseball really, in so many ways, carries the weight of baseball because a lot of people can't get to the Major League Baseball stadiums. It's 4, 6, 8 hours. Who knows how far away from their house? But there are minor league teams near them. What do you think about that they want to cut 42 teams?
I think it's tough. The minor leagues have always been tough. Whether it's what do players get paid, whether or not it's, do we need 3 levels, 4 levels? I love going to minor league games. I think it's a lot of fun, but at the same time, there is a monetary aspect of it where maybe you do cut 42 teams, but the other teams that are still there, those players are making more than the $400 a week. And I mean, they're making well under minimum wage.
Oh yeah.
So it's something that they've been battling for a very long time. And I don't know if it'll ever change, especially with the current salaries, things of that nature in the big leagues. And, those guys set the market. So it's tough.
My son
Definitely
and
a tough situation.
My son and I last year went to a number of different minor league games, and we were fortunate enough. Obviously, it's cheap enough. We met these two guys who were bus drivers for I can't, Hickory maybe. I can't remember which team it was, but we had a conversation. At least I had a conversation with them while the boy was all engaged in everything going on. But anyway, long story short, they were telling me a lot of those guys who even come from other places, from South America, Latin America, wherever, they're only making $500 every 2 weeks, and they're taking the better portion of that and sending it home. Fortunately for them, they are put up in a house and they get food from, the organization. But you're right. It is a tough call. I mean, it just saddens me that they can't come up with a more efficient plan and put teams in locations that are really, really backing them. 250,000 people came through the gates last year in Frederick, and we had the high-level A All-Star game here, and it was amazing. We went to that. But all right, so my final question before the decade definers is this for you. Sports is your passion. Baseball is your passion. If it didn't exist, baseball doesn't exist, where would you stick all your energies and passion? What would you be doing? What else would you want to get into?
The crazy thing is this is something I've actually thought about for the last couple of months, because with everything going on, you never know. They could just baseball could be up and done for college sports for a year, 2 years.
Yeah.
So, I've been thinking about it, and I honestly don't think I came up with like a real answer. But something where I think I would want to work in some form of event, where you have that process, kind of like a practice. You're setting everything up and you're working towards a goal, and just kind of like the preseason where you're having those practices and you finally get to a game. And I think working in an event where you're still around people, you're still having that practice where you're setting up for it, and then it's go time. I just always like that process. I like that first game, seeing everything kind of come together and seeing a process and seeing a plan come to the end is something I like.
So you're a social guy. You like to get out there and interact. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I like the interaction.
That's why I teach as my main trade. That's why I like doing this stuff. That's why I coached forever. All right, so I do a segment called Decade Definers. When I have a guest on, I like for them to give me their take on it. So Decade Definers for you, Coach Leister. The 5 best players you've ever seen play baseball, amateur, pro, in the States, abroad. Give it to me.
My first one, I gotta go with Jose Fernandez. Seeing him play in high school, he was a sophomore when I was a senior, and watching 16-year-old Jose Fernandez just mow through our lineup was something that was pretty special. Nobody knew who he was at the time, and you kind of just knew he was going to be a guy. Griffey was always one of my favorites as a kid. I think growing up in the 90s, it was hard not to play in your backyard and imitate a swing. The amount of hours I spent playing wiffle ball as Ken Griffey Jr. was pretty immense.
Yeah, I bet.
Mike Trout, he's up there for me. I know every visit, but watching that guy's process, watching the way he goes about his BP is awesome. One of the best things for him is, my number 4, Albert Pujols, is on his team. I think having the two of them together is what's really going to make Mike Trout as good as he could be.
Sure.
You're talking one of the best hitters of a 10-year span in Albert Pujols, if not the best. His first 10 years where he was unstoppable. And, I got to throw Noah in there. Watching every time he stepped on the mound last year, it was awesome. He'd come in, his work ethic, everything, and having a Golden Spikes finalist that come out of Navy is something that I don't know if it'll ever happen again. It's something that was really special, and every time he got on the mound, you felt like you had a way. You're a run or two away of winning a game, and it gives people so much confidence when these guys are on your team, and I think that's something that goes into being one of the best 5 players. So those are my 5.
That's an awesome five, to be honest with you. Trout is actually my son and I's favorite player to watch play the game. We love his
Yeah,
work
he's
ethic.
he's awesome. Watching him take BP is incredible. I had the opportunity to go on field for Angels BP out west, and him and Albert were in the same hitting group. So watching the two of those guys take batting practice at the same time was probably one of the most impressive things I've ever witnessed on a field.
And what I like about them, they seem like such genuine people too. Like I
Very
really
much so.
that
Very much.
you get that sense from interviews, you get that sense from everything they do. They just seem like very genuine people, and I love that in athletes. I really do.
Very much. Yeah, they're awesome. They're awesome guys. They're really easy to talk to, just easy to be around, and very impressive on the field. So it was definitely something that I've taken from it just by watching. So they're definitely up there for me.
Well, thanks a lot, man, for coming out and talking to us. It's been great. It's been great catching up with you, finding out what's going on with your coaching career, and best of luck with going forward. Eventually, it's going to end, and we're going to get back after it.
It's going to end. We're going to hit the ground running and keep grinding, keep winning.
I'm excited for it to happen. Next time you get out in the Maryland area, make sure you stop through and say hi to me. I'd love to bring my boy down to see Navy play sometime. So maybe next spring or something we can connect down there.
Yeah, I would love to have you out at the Bish. It's a great environment. It's an awesome time.
If we wanted to listen to a Navy baseball game, how would we listen to it?
I would definitely check out navysports.com. All of our games are listed on our schedule. We'll post them. Some of them will be live streamed as well. So it's definitely the best place to check out, get any information, whether it's games or camps. Everything is right there for you.
How about that Navy Army game? What's that all about?
That's the greatest thing I've ever been to. It's great to be a part of. I mean, you're talking full stands, people around the hills. It's just an incredible environment, a lot of fun. You got to go to it to understand. It's just a different beast.
Thanks again, Coach. I appreciate talking to you, and you take care. Let's catch up soon.
No problem. Thanks for everything. Go Navy.